All right. Hey, great morning, great afternoon, great day, everyone. My name is Ty Cohen, along with my amazing, strong, resilient co-host, Caroline Trainer. We bring you the Monday Morning Meetup. Our goal here on the MMM is to bring you the topics and the guests that will level up and elevate your life in as many areas as possible. So your business life, your personal life, your spiritual life, your relationships, your wealth, right? Your finances, the way that you think about yourself, the way you think about the planet, the way you think about others. That's our goal here on the Monday Morning Meetup. And today we're going to talk about, with an incredible guest that we have today, we're going to talk about the fact that you're not dead yet, right? You're not dead yet. And you're probably wondering, why the hell am I saying that? You're like, Ty, of course I know that I'm not dead yet, right? I realize that, but when we get into today's guest, you're going to really understand what that means and how powerful it is to just simply put some thought to that, right? The other thing is don't forget the challenge. So we've got to get it done. Micro Office Challenge coming up next week. We're going to be talking about AI and how you can use AI. We're going to even take a further dive into like using AI and specifically like ChatGPT and some of the other programs that are out there to help you to build your businesses. So I think that every single person who's watching this, whether you're a writer, whether you're a non-writer, whether you're an entrepreneur, whether you're sitting on the fence, or you're trying to figure out what direction you should go in, everyone should join us for this challenge because I think it's going to be really insightful and eye-opening for you. You can register for free at tycohen.com/MOC. So www.tycohen.com/MOC. And Caroline, we have a quote, right? I think you went in and you grabbed a quote. What do we have?
I have a great quote, which is so relevant for business and life as well. When sometimes things go a little bit screwy, or just when you're building your business and it feels like it's taking a while to take off. And it's a Henry Ford quote that I'm sure people have heard so many times, but I love this one. And it is, when everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Wow. So when everything seems to be going against you, remember that the airplane takes off against the wind, not with it. Henry Ford. I think it's a great reminder because I bet everyone here has got something that's going on that they need that quote to help them realize. It's sort of like sometimes the push against, it's like the momentum that you get obviously when a plane takes off. It's sometimes it feels like that when you're running a business. It feels like you're just sort of pushing against, and then all of a sudden you get to a point where you've got the knowledge, you've got some results, and when I say that, I mean a book has sold. And you start to take off and fly. And I always say to people, it doesn't matter if it's a short haul or a long haul flight, as long as you're enjoying it, Yeah,
that is true.
So I like that quote.
Yeah, that is very fitting, very, very fitting. It's also fitting for our guest and who I want to bring on. This is someone who I've had the pleasure of knowing him and his wife for a while, and he's someone who he like your daughter. He's been part of a military here, and your daughter's part of a military there. He's been part of a military here, actually part of a Marines, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he's one of the smartest individuals that I know when it comes to marketing and just relationships and talking to people and maintaining relationships, right? As a matter of fact, I've met a lot of people through him, directly and indirectly. He's one of the original founders of a marketers cruise where 300, 400, 500 of the smartest, most brilliant marketers on the planet get together to cruise once a year to some of the best places that you could ever wish to go to. He's been one of the most inspirational individuals that I've known. He's been one of the most positively inspiring individuals that I've known, and he's someone that is a great connector. With that said, I want to introduce you guys to my good buddy, my good friend, Tom Bill. Tom, are you with us?
I am here, Ty. Thank you for that amazing introduction. It's an honor to be here with you, Caroline, and the Money Morning Meetup. I love the name, the Money Morning Meetup. This is good. So I'm excited to be here. And Caroline, I love that quote from Henry Ford, but here's another quote. I'm not sure who is attributed to, but it's like this. If you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. So I actually restarted my computer to make sure there would be no hiccups. I'm sure if we've all experienced when you leave your computer on for multiple days and you try to join a Zoom, sometimes you can't hear, et cetera. So this morning, I was like, all right, let me do a fresh restart. Boom. I do Zoom calls all day, every day, and it works. Today was one of those days it didn't work. And that's just how life works. And the old me, and Ty, I'm sure you and Caroline and many of the Monday morning meetup people used to get stressed out when things didn't go to plan. But now we'll kick it off with some knowledge right off the bat. Expect chaos. Expect technology to give you hiccups, especially in the most important times. Yeah. You know, Ty and Caroline, I'm sure you probably had webinars where there was an offer being made and you put a lot of time, effort, and marketing into getting people registered. And then for whatever reason, there was a hiccup, technological difficulties that led to a lot of stress and possibly, at least from my own experience, working with Rich Sheffrin from Strategic Profits. This is back in 2011 when streaming was new. You had to have your own streaming servers and things like this. We put a lot of time and energy into building up this big webinar, this big event, which was selling an offer. And our goal was to get multiple hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales from that offer. And the minute we went live, it was within a couple minutes, there was a thunderstorm and all the power in our office went out. And so we were like stressed out and we're just like, what, how can this be? And we even had a backup generator that didn't kick on. Like we had like the redundancy to make sure that it wouldn't have those hiccups. And sure enough, it hiccuped. So then we stressed out for a little bit. And then we did what we could do. And that's really coming back to life. When you expect chaos, it doesn't stress you out to the point where you throw the towel in. You just do what I learned in the Marine Corps, 3 key words. Write these down. Improvise, adapt, and overcome. Chaos is always going to be there. And you just, instead of freaking out, you just calmly, coolly, and collectively say, okay, with this new information, what's mine to do now? How can I with this new information, did the desired outcome change or is it still the same? And if the desired outcome is still the same, okay, with this new information, with this chaos that came in, what must I think, say, and do to get me one step closer towards that desired outcome? So this reminds me of a quote from one of an amazing book by Dale Carnegie, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. So Dale Carnegie, great book, How to Stop Worrying and Start Living. And a couple big key takeaways from that are, one, live in day-tight compartments. Like today is where your power is. This moment right here and now is where your power is and only is. It's not in the past. It's not in the future. Right here, right now is where your power is. So the key is to be present. And when you're present, you're giving a gift to yourself. You're giving a gift to everyone who's in your presence. And when we have birthdays and Christmas and things like that, what are the things that we give people? We give them presents.
Yeah.
When you have that gift of presence, you're gifting it to yourself. You're gifting it to everyone else. So be present. So I was not intent.
So this is what I was talking about. That was just a physical demonstration.
Yeah,
guys.
And here's the thing, like you can, Tom said something. He said, regardless of what your beliefs are, right? If you want to make God laugh, tell her your plans. And it's, I'll say to my wife or something, right? Like, how many times you've woken up in the morning and you've had like this plan of attack for the day, and then something comes in and is like, it reminds me of a commercial, right? What's the basketball player when they're trying to make a shot and he comes in and he blocks it? He's like, no, no, no. That's the universe. That's gotta, sometimes you'll have, and that's Murphy right there. Murphy, right? With all of his BS. Yep. He'll come in and sometimes you're like, okay, well, I'm going to knock this out. This is the way business is going to go. This is the way life is going to go. This is the way my health is going to go. Hell, this is the way my marriage or my relationship is going to go. Mm-hmm. And then Murphy comes in and he's like, no, 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 no. He blocks that shot. Right? So the thing that you said before you got cut off was, today is where your power is. Yes. And then right after that, you said it's not in the future, it's not in the past. And I see so many people, man, that, I think we're blessed to be able to understand that today is where your power is. Because so many people let their power remain in the past. and it affects everything that they do. It
Mhm.
affects their belief about other people. It affects their belief about themselves. It affects what they think is capable of them. Like the things that happened in the past are just right there, and there's nothing that you can do about it.
Yep. Well, and the funniest part, all this, now I can hear, and now hopefully y'all can hear me better now too.
Your audio sounds
Indeed.
incredible
Yeah.
now.
So I have an iMac Pro. I've got the Yetis. All this stuff is like,
Right.
I do Zooms all day. Today there was a glitch because this lesson needed to be shared, right?
Yeah,
And that's something that for all of us, we're all in business, and it's a very important reminder that if you forget and you aren't expecting chaos, when chaos comes, it pushes you off of being present.
Mm.
And then you're like, my plan isn't going to plan. Well, guess what? Remember that A-Team movie back, or the TV show back in the 80s? And at the end of they always had a great elaborate plan. And then as soon as the plan engaged with real life, the plan went out the window, right? And then they had to improvise, adapt, and overcome. And at the end of the show on the A-Team, he would light a cigar and said, I love it when a plan comes together.
Yeah.
Which is a huge joke because the plans rarely go to plan. Like, so as
That's a
entrepreneurs,
great
we know
idea,
this.
example.
But Ty, you hit on some great point. This isn't just business. This is personal life too. Health, relationships, finances. So we're going to talk about that topic of you are not dead yet. But next to dead, you are not living up to your potential yet. And now this is big because Ty is doing some great things. Caroline's doing some great things. You as Money Morning Meetup members are doing great things. So Ty and I are mutual friends with Russell Brunson. He's doing great things. With mutual friends with Mike Filsame. He's doing great things. Everybody, Ty and I, we've spent time with Tony Robbins.
Yeah.
And on a personal level, like he's doing great things. Nobody is reaching their full potential, in my opinion. I don't think any human on earth has ever reached their full potential. And our limits, going back to a quote from Henry Ford, whether you think you can or think you can't, you're right. And now that sounds trite and that sounds like, yeah, I've heard that before. But when you really let that settle in, this right between your left and right forehead here contains what your limitations are. The biggest limitation you have is looking back at you in the mirror. So you're not dead yet, but you're also not living up to your potential yet. And we're going to
Tom, where can we get this? Hate to interrupt you, but I want to make sure, where can we get your book? Because I want to go grab my copy right now.
Well, the funny part is, and this is actually a good lesson. And so I came up with this title while being at Jeffrey Gitomer's house in South Carolina. So Jeffrey Gitomer, the New York Times best-selling sales author of all time, actually. He and I, there's a long story. We go way back to 2001. He was one of my first key mentors. And I pretty much, when I moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, I remembered that he lived in Charlotte, North Carolina because I got the Business Journal and saw his article in there. I'm like, oh, crap. So I called up his office in Charlotte with no thinking it through, just like, hey, I'm in Charlotte. And I said, hey, Jeffrey, I've just moved to Charlotte from Rochester, New York. I'm the publisher of the North Carolina Home Book. I'm new to the area, but I'm a big fan of yours. I'd love to take you out for a cup of coffee. He's like, sounds good for you. What's in it for me? And that's a mini lesson right there. And Jeffrey, for those who know him, he's bold. He doesn't have any barriers. He just speaks what's on his mind. He's like, yeah, sounds great for you. What's in it for me? And I said, well, Jeffrey, funny thing is, I didn't think that through. I guess what's in it for you is I just moved down here from Rochester, New York to be the publisher of the North Carolina Home Book for anyone looking to build, remodel, or decorate their $1 million plus home in Charlotte, Greensboro, or Raleigh. We don't have the North Carolina Home Book yet, but I have a South Florida home book. I have a Chicago home book. I have an LA home book. I can show you what it looks like. And so that was in July of 2001, that phone call. And he's like, all right, Bub, the earliest I can meet with you is on December 31st. I said, wow, Jeffrey, it's July right now. He's like, listen, and this is back when Jeffrey was traveling like a lot and all over the world. And he's like, listen, Bub, it's either December 31st or probably summer earliest of the following year. So we booked it for December 31st in July of 2001. Meanwhile, I had just moved down there after the 4th of July weekend, and I had 4 months to get this project done. If we reflect in our memory, going back a little over 20 years ago, where were we in July of 2001? That was pre 9/11.
Yeah.
And I had 4 months to get this job done. So do the math. 2 months into my project as a North Carolina home book, 9/11 hit. And I was on route on, I believe it was 77, whatever that highway is in North Carolina, in the early morning en route to the interior designer who did a lot of the NASCAR cars, Jeff Gordon's house and a whole bunch of other big homes in Lake Norman.
I was en route to that interior designer's house when I heard the news on the radio, and I the first plane hit. I'm like, what the heck? And I was like, I lived in Manhattan for a little while, and I don't remember even seeing planes. Like, that's just weird. Like, and I pictured it was a small prop plane or something. Like, man, that's a weird freak accident. When the second plane, I don't remember what the second thing was. Whenever that second incident happened, I pulled off on the side of the road and I called my office. We started early. We started 8 a.m. In my office. I called my office. I said, we're under attack. Send everybody home. They're like, what are you talking about? I'm like, turn the radio on, turn the TV on. We're under attack. Send everyone home. And I sat on the side of the road, and that was when it hit me. And this actually, Ty, you probably don't know this story, but that's actually when I sat on the side of the road and heard all that stuff happening. That's when I really came into tune with, I'm not dead yet. Like, that's really when that hit me in my mind of like, I'm still alive, and it's time for me to now answer the question that many people have asked me my whole life. And just to give you some insight, quick going back, I was born to teenagers, raised. My mother was 17. My father was 19 when I was born. There was much talks after I found out later, abortion was just legalized. I was born in 72, was just legalized. And there's a 17-year-old daughter and a 19-year-old son having a baby. Baby's having a baby. And there was much conversation about not even allowing me to be born, right?
Wow.
Abortion was legal, right? So that was a lot of talk on both sides of the family. About, hey, are you guys sure? And somehow, some way, my teenage parents allowed me to even be born, which against all odds, right? So I was raised by kids and around a lot of chaos, a lot of stuff. So I was raised around 4 divorces and 6 marriages between my parents. Went to 9 different schools by 8th grade. Was on and off welfare, and just alcoholism, abuse, neglect, everything that you could, it was just crazy.
Every test that could be thrown at you, right? Every test that could be thrown at you.
Oh man, I remember crying, and here's the thing, like, so by the time I remembered everyone's name in my new school, we'd move to another school. So I made a decision as a child, like, I'm not even going to remember the names of this, because as soon as I remember everyone's names, we move.
Yeah.
And so that was a decision I made as a child. I also made a decision as a child, like, I'm never getting divorced. Like, I'm never going to get divorced. This is crazy, right? So I made a lot of decisions as a child, and I was a top student, and I was a top athlete. And I basically, looking back, I can see that was my desire to say, look at me, I am good enough, I am lovable, I am worthy.
Yeah.
Right. And that's something that we never outgrow as humans, that we have that feeling of insecurity of wanting to, hey, look at me, I am good enough, I am lovable, I am worthy. Right. So it caused a lot of great success for me, but that was, hey, look at me, mom, look at me, dad, look at me. I am worthy. I am good enough. I am lovable. Right. So there's that. But through that, I became a national bicycle champion as a young age. I was a BMX freestyler. So the tricks on the bikes type of stuff, like gymnastics. So I saw the movie Rad in the 80s. Yeah. The movie Rad in the 80s with people doing tricks on the bikes. I said, man, I'd love to do that. But I was in poverty, and you needed a bike that had proper equipment. So I went to my family. I said, look, for my birthday and for Christmas, I don't want individual gifts. I want you all to pool together, and cumulatively, with any gifts that you could get, I want to put that towards a bike. So I got my bike that had the pegs on it and had the gyro. And now I had.
Did you get a red line or did you get a GT? Because I had a red line.
I got a red line first.
I had a GT. We used to do all of the tricks, man, the cherry pickers and everything. Right. And I almost broke every damn bone in my body just trying to learn how to,
Yep. And that actually was a great learning experience for our entrepreneurial journey, Ty, because we learned mentorship a long time ago. So at that young teenage age, I was like, look, I need to learn how to do tricks. I need to find out who's already doing the tricks that I want to learn. Because back then, Ty, all we had was BMX Plus and Freestyling Magazine. And pictures don't show the whole story. So you see a picture of a cherry picker, you see a picture of whatever the trick, and the picture doesn't do it justice. You don't know how they got to that point. So I searched the neighborhood, and I found someone that was doing tricks, and I would see how they would do it, and I would emulate them, and they would guide me. So at that young teenage, as a young teenager, I was learning the power of finding someone who's already doing what I want to do, and how they doing it can show me what I can fine tune and tweak to get that down. So I went from not knowing a thing to becoming a national bicycle champion within a couple of years for my age group. And I was a national bicycle champion, a top wrestler, a top all that. Then I became after high school. I was the #1 salesperson for our senior drive. And Ty, you'll get a kick out of this. So we sold magazine subscriptions. I was knocking on doors, and I sold we had 160 people in my high school graduating class. I sold more than the cumulative rest of my class. Wow. As far as magazine, like that, I was just like willing to do the work. And I was in junior achievement, and I also was knocking on doors and selling the stuff that we were doing for junior achievement and things of that nature. And that led to me being #1 in 5 separate sales organizations. Yeah. And also led me in a twist of events. So in those divorces and all that fun stuff, my mom, who was the bicycle manager, because we had a bicycle team that had sponsors, and as a teenager, wow, okay. I was getting Odyssey, Diacomp, LA Gear, Vision Streetwear, like Diamondback was my bike sponsor.
Diamondback was another one I had. Yep. Yeah.
So I had all these sponsors as a kid. I'm like, man, life is simple. I'm touring around doing shows, and I'm getting all this free stuff coming to my house. But then my mom got one of those divorces in 1989, and she was the manager of our team, and she kind of had a nervous breakdown, and our team dissolved. And so I went from signing autographs as a national champion to working in a factory with earplugs. And I was the MC for our team and things like this. So here I was, an outgoing person now with earplugs in, working in a factory, signing boxes of weather stripping that I was creating. And it just was not a fulfilling scenario for me. And I had somebody there. Actually, I was moving through the ranks, because here's the other thing. Whatever I did, I made sure to put my stamp of, you could tell I was there because my T's were crossed, the I's were dotted. It was done at the best that I was able to do it. I gave my full attention, whether I was a janitor, which I was in high school, or whether I was working in that factory. Whatever I did, I gave my all towards it. And that led me to being #1 in 5 sales organizations and all this fun stuff. But that person in the factory saw me rising through the ranks, and I was applying for a different job, and he pulled me aside. He's like, "You don't belong here." And I thought he was saying that meaning, what do you mean? I'm not good enough, right? I was like, "What are you talking about?" He's like, "No, you remind me of me 20 years ago." And he's like, "You're living with your dad right now." And he said that I was in a similar situation. I met a girl, we got an apartment together, she got pregnant, we got married, and 20 years I've been here the whole time. He said, "Do you still want to be here 20 years from now?" And I had never asked myself that question. I was just living in the moment, right? And I hadn't thought any advanced strategy. And I said, "Man, no, I don't want to be here 20 years from now." He's like, "Well, I'm just letting you know you're too good to be here. Like I don't want you to waste your life. Like, not saying I wasted mine, but I see you doing bigger and better things." And that planted a seed for me. So I was working the 3 to 11 p.m. shift, and many times I'd work the 11 to 7 a.m. shift, a double shift. And after that conversation with this guy, just a random conversation, I went and got a job at the mall at Merry-Go-Round. Ty, you might remember Merry-Go-Round, a little hip hop store in the mall. So and by the way, I have some hip hop moves. I think Ty may have seen my dance moves on occasion. Yeah. I bust out some old.
I don't know if they want to see them. And plus, our insurance doesn't pay for that, man. It doesn't pay for any broken bones or anything like that, happening. But, right. You talked about, like, so he gave you the vision. Mm-hmm. He gave you a vision that maybe you might have grown into that vision at some point in life, but he was able to give it to you right then and there when you
100%. You took it. I'm so grateful that he had the courage to even tell me that. Like, that was a pretty, like, because we weren't friends. He just put, because 3 to 11 shift, we had lunch around 7 p.m. lunch at 7 or whatever. Like, and that's when he had that brief conversation. Little did he know that would be a trajectory modifying conversation for me. And just so y'all know, I'm saying all this because my goal, my intention here is this conversation is a trajectory modifier for each and every one of you here. Different parts of the conversation is going to resonate for each of you, but there's going to be some dots connect that's similar to that person who told me, do you still want to be here 20 years from now? Which leads actually to a very important lesson here, Ty, and you and I have talked about this before. Two of the most important conversations you can ever have are this. One is to have you right now go back and talk to the version of you 20 years ago. And it's pretty easy for us to remember where we were 20 years ago because 9/11 was right around there. So where were you post 9/11? What were you doing? What uncertainty did you have? What challenges did you have? And actually, I would have you, when you do this, think about 20 years back, right after 9/11, the uncertainty, the wondering what's happening in the world, all this craziness. What were your deepest, darkest, trying times? Go have a conversation with that version of you. And so 20 years, one of the most important conversations you can have is the one with you now, with you from 20 years ago. And just go as that mentor and say, hey, look, man, you got a crazy 20 years coming up. And there's going to be times when you're going to want to throw the towel in. Like, it looks like there's no light at the end of the tunnel. And literally there probably isn't any light at the end of the tunnel. I get it. I was there. It's tough. It's rough. It's painful. It hurts, personally and professionally. But stand up, dust yourself off, and trust. By taking one step after the next, you find the light at the end of the tunnel. Even when it looks, the odds are stacked against you and you got nothing going for you. One step at a time, you turn and holy cow, not only is there a light, there's a whole different path that you didn't see. Yeah. Right. So just trust through all that pain, through all the challenges, you do persevere, you do make it through, but you got to stand up and you got to dust yourself off. You got to learn the lessons and be fully present in knowing what's yours to do in that next step, and just trust and do it and do it. We'll get into some other things. I have a saying now, I am me, F you. I am me, F you is I am me fully and unapologetically. Mm-hmm. Be you. So I have talks with me with it 20 years ago. I said, look, you need to learn the lesson that don't worry about everybody caring about you. Don't worry about everybody being on your vision. Don't worry about everybody supporting you. That's not going to happen.
Everybody liking you, right? Like everybody on board and
right.
Like let's speak to that for a minute, man, because I want to have a conversation like you and I when we talk, whether it's in person. And if you guys don't know, so my wife and I have gone on a marketer's cruise. Well, we haven't gone in the last 2 or 3 years, but prior to that, we have gone on it, I think, 14 years or so, consecutively.
Wow.
Boom, boom. Right?
We spent a lot of time together. Right.
And we go on that damn. Initially, Tom, I was going on it for business purposes.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
First year, I went on a mission, and I'm like, I'm gonna go in. My goal, I was totally green, really introverted, didn't want to talk to no one. And I said, I'm going to force myself to go on this damn boat. You know, there's 300-400 marketers here. I'm going to put myself in a position where I didn't want to be. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but I'm going to go in, I'm going to set this high goal of making $1 million from the connections that I made. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if you guys remember, but I got up there and I had spoken about that years later, where the very first time I came on the marketer's cruise, it resulted in me making $1 million from the connections. I met you, Mike Filsame, I had known, but we had never connected, right? I met Damon Zamora, and him and I had went on and did a lot of cool things. I met Davin Michaels. We had went on and done a lot of cool things. But I say that to say, like, and then after that, it became less about business, but more about my wife's like, we need to go to marketing school, so I want to hang out with Tom and Wanda, right? So your wife and my wife and the other wives, they would go in and do their thing, and the guys would do our thing. And then we would also come together and we do the couple thing, and we're all hanging out at restaurants and everything. But I say that to say that 20 years ago, prior to that, I would have never thought that I would be in that position. Mm-hmm. So what you just said, like, I love the fact that you use that exercise to talk to yourself 20 years back and like, hey, Ty, all the foolishness that you're saying right now, this is not where you're going to end up at.
Yeah.
But and then the second bit of power I see in that, and I'll leave it at this, is we could do this for our future self, and you're probably getting there.
That's the second most important conversation. Yes, you're ahead of me right here. That's exactly it. And then Ty, just to reflect back, Ty, I remember this, Ty, you may remember this now that I tell it to you. So back in 2010, well, well, man, there's so many interweaving things here. But anyhow, I was partners with Mike Filsame from 2006 to 2011. We had an LLC. We did multiple millions of dollars of launches, and we had a track record of just kicking butt. We became the hub of internet marketing. And in 2010, we had a Vegas affiliate appreciation day.
That's where I met. That's where we met at. Yeah.
I'm talking, and there's a dude from North Carolina who's in the music business. And
I was in Connecticut at that time.
Huh?
I was in Connecticut at that time.
Okay.
Because that was our bonding factor. You were from New York and I was in Connecticut. Yeah.
But I also lived in North Carolina, and we somehow North Carolina came up because I remember in 2010 somehow North Carolina came up.
You know what? Yes, you're right. We moved here in 2008, I believe. Yeah, you're right.
I lived in Moxville and Harmony, North Carolina. So you and I are chatting, and you're in the music industry, and you tell me all this, and so meanwhile there's all these big shots there, and I'm having this talk with this Ty dude from North Carolina, and we're connecting over North Carolina, we're connecting over some fun things. And that was the shy Ty, right? I remember.
That was it. Yeah.
I remember it.
I was just locked in. I'm like, okay, well, let me find just one person I could talk to, and then that's it. So and all of the other 100 or so people, I'm not.
Yep.
But yeah, man, it's interesting to see who you can become.
Yep.
If you just believe.
Right.
And then as you just don't give a damn about stuff.
I am me, F you. I came up with that, like, and it's phonetically true, but it also F you fully and unapologetically. Like I'm me, F you. And then SW4. And SW4, I tried another thing, Ty, we've been in this so long, we assume people understand what we're thinking. I made a mistake for a long time thinking everyone thinks like I think. And then I realized that's not the case. Like, so don't, just because you're unconsciously competent at something, break it down so that you can share it in a conscious competence thing. So SW4 applies in business and applies in life. No matter what you do, Ty, we could go out in the street and hand out $100 bills, and some people are going to call the police on us, like, because they're up to something, right? No matter what you do, some will love it, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. That's SW4. No matter what you do, some will, some won't. So what? Someone's waiting. We'll touch on that a little bit, but there's just so many different paths I love going down, but it goes exactly where it needs to go. So the first and most important conversation you need to have, write this down, speak to yourself 20 years ago. And remember all the challenges that you've gone through in those 20 years. What would you, as a mentor to yourself, tell yourself 20 years ago to stay with it, stay with the course? You know, it does work out. It's painful. It's crazy. If you knew all that was coming, you probably would throw the towel in, but you somehow make it, right? But then there's also this metaverse type of little woo-woo type thing. What if, because I think back to your past, those deep, dark valleys that we've all been there. Like, we'll get into that topic. We've all been in that deep, dark valley.
And we're all about the woo-woo, man. If you may not have watched the show, but we're all about, I know I am. My life has been, the hockey stick part of my life has all been all about the woo-woo. So I'm right there. And those are the conversations that we have privately, you and I. So do it, man.
What if you're in that deep, because and when you go back to those deep, dark moments, there was a moment where you're finally like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to stand back up and get back at it, right? There's that point where you're in that self-pity and you're wallowing in the pain and the sorrow. But there's that moment when you're like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to do it anyhow. Like, all right, I didn't expect that pain. I didn't expect that challenge. I didn't expect that carpet to get pulled out. But you know what? I'm still me. I'm going to go back at it, right? There's that moment we all have. What if there's a connection between the past, the present, and now? What if that conversation you have with that version of you in that deepest, darkest moment, what if that was the conversation that triggered you to say, you know what? It's time for me to stand back up and get back at it, right? What if there's a connection like that? Like, let's face this reality. There's a lot happening that we can't understand. We'll never understand. There's a lot happening in this world, in this universe. But some people say time is a construct. It all happens at once. Yeah. So, Siskel and Ebert, Roger Ebert died, and his wife said the day before he died, he wrote down, it's all one elaborate hoax.
I was just reading that the other day.
I posted it. Yep. And she's like, what do you mean? He's like, it's not like heaven like we think. It's you're at this place where the past, present, and future is all happening all at once. It's impossible to describe. So what if that conversation you're having with that version of you 20 years ago is that moment that you're like, you know what, it's time for me to stand back up and get back at it. Enough wallowing in the pain and sorrow. I'm going to get back at it. So there's that aspect. So there's a lot of healing that goes into this. And with that also comes the Hawaiian tradition of look, in the moment, we've all said and done stupid stuff. We need to release that holding us back. And that comes from this Ho'oponopono. I don't know how to say it right, but and it's a four-step process. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. Right. And have that process of healing and doing that with yourself. And then doing that with others that are important to you in your life, personally and professionally. But first and most important is the relationship with you and yourself. Like, look, forgive yourself. I'm sorry. Please forgive me. Thank you. I love you. And continue to come to that forgiveness of your past, forgiveness of those errors, forgiveness of those mistakes. And that's a huge unlocking for the potential. Now move forward to the next most important conversation you have. Now, I'm of the belief that we have in our future from dead and gone to multi-billionaire status. And it's up to us to determine, and it's not just money. Like here we are, we're talking about the Money Morning Meetup, but it all works together. I feel you can have the money. Ty and I have lots of friends with lots of hundreds of millions, but their health or their relationships are in the crapper. And there's nothing, there's boohoo, money, rich person problems. I deal with a lot of people as a consultant and a coach that have all the money, but their health or relationships is in the
kids don't like them. The wife, they're with the wife, and wife can barely like them, but the wife is with them because of whatever reason, right? Relationships.
Scenario.
Worst person to talk to. They're not a time bill. You can't. I mean, they're grumpy as hell, right? But
it's a terrible thing. So you need your health, your relationships, and your finance. So success is all three, and they're not all going to be perfect. 33.3%. But you can intentionally say, I deserve to have optimal health. I deserve to have optimal relationships. I deserve to have the optimal financial situation. And you now get good at discerning what's mine to do now. And I used to think when I was in workaholic mode, I made the mistake of thinking what's mine to do now only could be a revenue producing activity. So when I was hanging out with my kids, I was beating myself up thinking I should be doing a revenue producing activity. No. What's mine to do is to be fully present in discerning what's mine to do now. What's mine to do now? Many times the answer is, you know what, close up all this. I did what needed to do for business. It's time to go spend time with this child, this significant other, right? Like you now have to trust your discernment of rotating health, relationships, and finances. And the first relationship so foundation is health. Health isn't just the reflection in the mirror. It's another triangle. It's your mental health, your physical health, and your emotional health. We've all had those ripped friends who aren't so mentally or emotionally on the right kilter, right? It's health, not just the reflection in the mirror. That's one aspect, but it's your mental, your physical, emotional health. And I add in emotional/spiritual because I like to have it in triangles, right? It's called my Trinity success method. So success, health, relationships, and finances, the base is health, mental, physical, emotional/spiritual. Relationships, personal, professional, social. Money, today money, tomorrow money, and contribution. We'll get back to that in a second. But then let's go to the second most important conversation you'll have is that future version of 20 years from now. We all have a self-regulating mechanism. Our brain doesn't say, I'm going to be a trillionaire, right? Our brain, like we just know when we're BSing ourselves, right? So when you're looking at that future version of you with health, relationships, and finances, which one do you feel, not just the one that you feel you're definitely going to make, ratchet it up a little bit, put yourself out of your comfort zone. I want to be at optimal health, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. I want to have the optimal relationships, personally, professionally, socially. I want to have the optimal financial situation with my today money, my tomorrow money, my contribution, and ratchet it up a little bit. And then shoot that, like you have a crossbow with a string attached to it, a rope, shoot that crossbow to that version of you. That's the version that you want to have the conversation with. Now, this time that person 20 years from now, that best version of you comes back and tells you is the guide for you now. And now there's times when I did this 10 years ago, when I did this, it was a rougher Marine version of me. And I don't know if you guys swear on this, but my rougher.
Yeah, we swear like sailors and Marines. At least I do. Every once in a while, they'll remind me that.
So 10 years ago, when I went and did this process of that version 20 years ago, 10 years ago, Ty, I had some success with Mike Phil Sane, and I got fat and happy, right? And I was fat and happy, right? And I looked in the mirror, and this was on a cruise. After the cruise, I had a gut. I'm like, what the heck? I'm a wrestler. I grew up as a Marine and a wrestler. And I was like, wait a minute, I got fat and happy. So when I had that conversation 10 years ago, that version of me was like, look, man, Marine, you better get your act together and get off your ass. You're fat and happy. Fat and happy doesn't change the world. You want to change the world, you got to get off your butt, right? You got to make some changes. Like you aren't going to get to this version of me doing what the hell you're doing right now.
Comfortable, worst place to be.
Yeah, you got to step up. Like what the hell's wrong with you, right? So that version of me that I talked to was kicking my butt because I needed my butt kicked at that time, right? And it was from that. Just a couple of days ago, I hit 5 years of making a choice of no more alcohol. 5 years ago, I was like, you know what? This isn't what's going to get me to where I'm going. And it's not hating on people who still choose to do that. For me, I got bigger goals and visions. The version of me, this isn't going to get me there.
Well, you and I kind of made that decision around the same time.
Yep.
I don't know if you remember on the market. Well, hell, you had to remember. Do you remember when I went into a sickle cell crisis on a cruise?
I do.
And I got COVID. Well, I don't know if I got COVID, but I went into a sickle cell crisis at that time.
Yep.
Right. And here I am. We were talking about flying me off of a cruise ship.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And it was like $30,000. And all of a sudden I got better like this. Right. But Mel's like, okay, I'm gonna go in and I'm gonna tell him that. I'm like, hold on, how much do they want? Hell no, I go better. And I thought,
hallelujah, hallelujah,
hallelujah, it's a miracle, right? But in all seriousness, you saw me at my probably the lowest that I had ever been health-wise.
Mm-hmm.
You saw how I looked. Like I thought I was gonna die, to be honest with you, Tom. I think you and I had talked about this.
Well, Ty, I was actually gonna. It's funny how everything unfolds perfectly. So I was gonna bring up. So I brought up the time we met in the Vegas at that thing.
Mm-hmm.
This was a whole separate incident on the Marketers Cruise. This is like 2020, like right before the pandemic.
It was 2020. Yeah, it was
January 2020,
right before things hit the fan.
So I was in the infirmary because there was a Marketer cruiser who died. And I was there.
I remember that. Yeah.
I was, and then I see Mel, and I looked like, because I didn't. When I came in, I didn't know who the cruiser was that was dying.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw Mel, and I turned like white as a ghost. I'm like, whoa, Mel. And she's looking at me like, what are you doing here? And I'm looking at her like, what are you doing here? Because I was there to see who this person was who was dying. And now I see Mel, and my heart dropped. I'm like,
you thought it was me, right?
I was like, oh, whoa. So she saw me turn white as a ghost. So, what are you doing here? She said, what are you doing here? I said, there's actually a cruiser who is dying, and is it not Ty? Is it? She's like, no, he's having a serious sickle cell thing, but he doesn't want. And this is another thing. Ty, she's like, Ty doesn't want any sympathy, so he's wanting to keep it a secret. I'm like, well, that's just who Ty is, right? So
I hate. How are you feeling? And because I used to get it so much as a kid, right? Oh, you're all right, and that shit. I always thought that it weakens people.
It does.
At least for me.
It does.
I'm like, I don't want the, oh my God, you okay? And all of this. I'm like, no, like, tell me to get my ass up and just, you know what I mean? Like, because.
That's why when you had that recent procedure, you told everyone well afterwards. Yeah. And you said to me, did I make that sound like that's a really big deal? Because I don't want people then thinking, and that's because I don't need anyone else's energy on this. I've got it.
I didn't want the energy. That's it. 100%.
Which is sort of self-preservation and protection, isn't it? That's really interesting.
You said it really well. That's why it's good to have smart friends, Tom, because she said self-preservation. Because I realized that growing up as a kid, I would get that all the time, right? My mom was smart enough not to give it to me. Mm-hmm. She was the one who did not give it to me. But everyone else, and they were giving it to me out of love and care, right? The people are not trying to be destructive. People are like, they love you and they care for you.
Right.
And pity as well.
What's that?
Yeah. And pity.
And pity, right. But they also realize, like,
you don't need.
He doesn't do well.
Yeah.
So, Tom, can we switch gears real quick, man? Like, if you're cool with this. Some things that we talk about oftentimes is like the weakening of society.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. You have to put a boundary. So okay, let's first talk about Nikola Tesla. Has a famous quote that says, if you want to know the secrets of the universe, study energy, frequency, and vibration, right? So you need to put a boundary around yourself. First of all, your role is the caretaker of your multi-trillion-dollar vehicle called your human body. Yeah. You got to protect and care for your body, to include protecting and caring for your energy, your frequency, and your vibration. That goes right into, Ty, what you talked about. You have people that are constantly seeing less of you, or putting you at that future version of you that's like far below what you know your vision is.
Right.
That's tapping into your energy, frequency, vibration. You got to have the people that ideally that see even a larger version of you. That's why people that are already highly successful work with me, because I see a larger version. I know they're not living up to their full potential. Everyone around them, even themselves, think, well, I guess I did it, now what? Like, I guess I did all that I could do. No. This is just a stepping stone for what's coming next. Like, you want around those people that are pumping you up. By the way, there's a perfect example of this in a documentary. I think it's from 2009 called Tyson. It's a documentary of Mike Tyson, and it shows the power of belief Cus D'Amato had in Mike. Cus D'Amato's belief infiltrated into Mike. And it took a long time for Mike. Wait, what's this crazy white? And he says it right in the movie. What's this crazy white guy talking about? I'm going to rob him and head back to the hood.
Yeah.
And then he's like, maybe this crazy white guy's not so crazy after all. Maybe I am a champ. Cus called him champ so much that it infiltrated into Mike's mind. And Mike became indestructible, became the champ. No one could touch him from Cus D'Amato's belief in him.
Muhammad Ali, I am the greatest. Look, this dude said that he was the greatest way before he became the greatest.
Correct.
So it is the words. I'm so cautious of the words that I allow myself to say or think, or that others like say or think, right? And it's tough because you don't want to be judgmental either, right? And you don't want, so it's always a thin line.
It's a fine line, right? It's a fine line. And I was actually, so a year ago, I was at a wrestling tournament with Russell Brunson. So Russell wrestles, I wrestle, I kicked Russell's butt. And he said he'll never admit it publicly. He admitted.
We don't have the video of that though, so I don't know if there's any proof of it.
He has the video after I let him up. He has a video of him jumping on me after I let him up, and I'm laughing. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? So anyhow, so I kicked his butt in his wrestling in a hotel room back in, I don't remember the year, 2006 or 7. And so we've had this long-standing fun joke back and forth. But he taught me a new at a wrestling tournament last year. And I'm talking with Russell. And Ty, you talked about that fine line. And basically I said, Russell, I may be delusional, but I think I'm going to kick some people's butt here today. I haven't been on a mat in 25 years, but I'm going to kick some butt. And he's like, you know what? In life, don't you have to be delusional? He's like, I guess I've been delusional to produce the results I produced. Right. And Ty, you've had to be delusional to produce I've had to be delusional. Right. So there's a fine line between delusional and not. Like, if you want to be someone who's making a change in the world, you kind of have to be delusional to what other people, the regular people, think. Yeah. Right. And you have to just stay that fine. Like, hey, I'm me fully and unapologetically. And some people may label that delusional, but I know where I'm going. And I'm going to adjust my sails accordingly to still get to where I'm going, regardless if people believe me or not. I'm going. And that's so I've worked with Dan Kennedy. I've worked with Jay Abraham. And there's a time when Jay Abraham was at a meeting or a get together that had the founders of Google. And Jay, who's a big thinker, produced multi-billions of dollars in results. Jay said when he left that conversation, he's like, they're insane. Like, they're talking about stuff that I can't even wrap my mind around. Like, that the billionaires are talking about things that normal people can't even comprehend. And Jay's far from normal. Jay's highly advanced, one of the best marketers in the world.
He worked with some of the biggest companies on the planet and all, right? Yeah. And even that conversation was mind expanding, unbelievable and delusional for him. There's
different levels of delusion, right? And what they're talking about things that we just, it's so beyond what we feel we're capable of as humans, right? And that's that super level, right? Ty, you're at a level. Everyone's at their own level, but you need to be that person who is different. So anyhow, let's go back to everything's energy, frequency, vibration. One of the things I talk about, one of the lessons I talk about is, Ty, you'll get this, and most everyone else gets this. You can rent very expensive cars. You can rent very expensive boats, yachts. You can rent airplanes. How much, if it were possible, would Steve Jobs rent your body for half a day? And anyone here? And a lot of people do a lot of self-judging of their own body. That's your vehicle. This is a multi-trillion-dollar vehicle, one of the most coveted vehicles in the universe. Think about this. Steve, you can go rent a yacht for $500,000 for a week. How much would they rent if Steve Jobs or any billionaire who's no longer here, how much would they rent your body for an hour, even half a day? The answer is everything. If Steve Jobs could rent your body, your vehicle for half a day, it would be $65 billion and more, probably $100 billion. Wow. That's how valuable your vehicle is. And if you have a nice car, if you have a nice house, you have a nice boat, you have a nice plane, you have people taking care of that vehicle. Guess what? You are the caretaker of your vehicle. Your mental, physical, emotional, spiritual health. You are the caretaker. How good of a job are you doing? Would you fire yourself, or would you tell yourself, have that 20-year version, say, look, here we got big things to do. You better get your act together. You got to take care of yourself. I love my family so much. I'm taking care of me personally, professionally. I'm taking care of my mental, emotional, and physical health so that I can be that best version of me. I care so much about them. I'm taking big responsibility in that. You got to take big responsibility in taking care of your vehicle, mentally, physically, emotionally, spiritually. And you got to figure out, everyone has a different routine. I have my routine. My mantra is make today great.
Yep.
Make today great. And it's funny. I'll be walking with Wanda And people will be, I like that shirt. I like that shirt. So that's my podcast, maketodaygreat.com. That's the podcast, right? But Make Today Great is my mantra that I picked up from Zig Ziglar years ago. When I was a fan of Zig, when I was in sales way back in the 90s, I studied a lot of Zig Ziglar, and he had see you at the top and then see you over the top. I'm like, man, that's so cool. I was like, if I had a salutation, if I would sign off everything, what would I sign off as? And I came up with Make Today Great. And so since the 90s, I've been Make Today Great. And I bought maketodaygreat.com and had, all that stuff. But that's my mantra, Make Today Great. What does that mean? That means I have my morning routine. There's a book called The Boron Letters from Gary Halbert.
Oh yeah. I got it. I keep it on my desk. Well, I keep it behind my desk.
Right. It's amazing. And Ty, you may, so I read it many, many times. And if no matter how many times you read it, it's always worth rereading it.
Yeah.
But I remember one time reading it and like it finally connecting, because in the beginning of the Boron Letters, he's writing it to his son while he's in prison.
Yeah.
And he tells him, son, this is the most, yes, I'm talking about building a multi-million-dollar business, but this is the most important thing, your hour of power in the morning. And he's like, you're gonna probably want to skip over it and get to the other stuff, but I'm telling you, this is the most important. And Ty, I read it for years, and I would just skip over it and be like, get to the important stuff, get to the important stuff.
Get to the copy, get to the persuasion,
right.
Get to the influence, right? How do we sell?
Right. Until I had been on a morning routine for years. And then finally I read it one time, like, holy crap, that's right. That is the most important thing of the book. You have to get your morning routine squared away with an hour of power, and that sets up the rest of your success. Right. So I've been on a morning routine where just this morning, Ty, I saw your post for something in the morning. I got up at 4:30. I did my hour-long walk to the beach and back. And then I went on a moped ride, and I saw the sunrise, and I took care of myself. I did my routine to set me up. I make today great right off the bat, mentally, emotionally, spiritually. I'm on the right path. I'm walking for an hour. So basically, Gary Halbert says, wake up, get dressed, and walk for a half an hour in one direction at a fast pace. Set your alarm clock if you set your alarm, and then when the alarm goes off, turn around and walk back. An hour of power, right? So for me, it just happens to be half an hour for me is the beach, right? So I'm about 2+ miles, around 2 miles to the beach. I get to the beach. I have a little morning routine I do there. I set my intentions for the day, which in essence, my intention setting is, okay, what appointments do I have today? What's my intention for that appointment? Who do I need to be? What's my desired outcome for that appointment? And most of the time, the end result is for me just to be fully present, right? Out of all of it, if I'm fully present, it's going to unfold exactly as it needs to unfold. I know what my desired outcome is for each of the meetings I have. And in order to make that desired outcome become reality is just be fully present and trust it's going to unfold exactly as it needs to unfold. Right. Yeah, that's it. Right. And that's really what it comes down to.
It's being present, man. It's Jim Rohn talks about, right? Wherever you are, be there, right? Don't be at the beach.
Yep.
Your mind is on work, and don't be at work, but your mind is on being at the beach, right? So when you said that, like your children being your everything, right? So making that switch, because I think a lot of entrepreneurs do that. And I think there's also seasons when it comes to being an entrepreneur, right? There's this time when you're looking for, when you realize there's no balance, right?
Right.
Because for many years, my mantra was balance is bogus. Mm-hmm. I can't have balance in all areas. Like if there's, 100 pieces, I can't have 10, 10, 10, 10. Right. 10 family, 10 work, right? 10 health, 10 spiritual.
It's always going to have some unbalance, but you're intentionally giving the proper attention to each of those areas. Right.
Yep. And then you get to a point where you can do that even better and better and better. Tom, man, this was fantastic right here. I want to definitely, be conscious of your time. I know we're going on an hour almost. We got to get you back, brother, because this is just like when you and I talk. Sometimes we'll disappear. We're off, and you and I are talking, and the wives are like, "Where the hell are Ty and Tom going?" We're just having these conversations here. If you guys enjoy this conversation, would you like to get Tom back? We definitely have to get him back. Someone's saying, "What's the name of your?" Jane's like, "Love the energy." Where's the book? How can they get the book? Tom, where can they get the book from?
Well, we didn't even get to that, but funny enough, like the book came when I was at Jeffrey Gittimer's. I paid Jeffrey, even though we're friends, I paid to be at his South Carolina location, and we worked on it. So the title came. I created a movement, and the book never has been released yet, but it's at youarenotdeadyet.com inside my app. And Ty, I'd love to come back, but I also would love to share this if we have time. Is it okay if we go a little?
Yeah, absolutely. Listen. So let's do this. If anyone needs to go, then by all means, go ahead and do what you got to do. I'm gonna stay here, Caroline. If you need to go also, or if you want to hang out,
This is too good to go.
okay, cool.
I do, but I can wait.
So Caroline and I are going to hang out. Caroline will hang out with Tom. Tom, let's do this, brother,
Right.
and we'll also get him back as
Cool.
well.
Yeah, I'm game.
No,
I'm game. I love
no
having these
pressure.
conversations. I know that it connects the dots. So here's one that touches exactly on You Are Not Dead Yet. So September 11th, not the September 11th, 01 that everyone remembers, September 11th, 1998, I was in a single car crash in a country road in upstate New York, rolled the car 4 times, ejected from the sunroof in a field, and laid in the field for hours before anyone even knew there was an accident. Because when the car rolled, the battery fell out. And so long story short is the person that lived at the edge of the field, it was about 10 o'clock at night on September 11th, 1998. He heard something and he got up and he looked out the window and he didn't see anything. And he went back and laid down. And then after like an hour or so, he called the fire department. He's like, hey, I can't see anything, but I know something happened. So I'm laying in this field. And next thing you know, I'm about 20 feet in the air and I see someone laying in a field. And it's confusing to me. I'm like, what's this? And I focus in, I'm like, who is that? And I was confused. And I see that it's me. And the moment I see it's me, now I'm pulled up and I'm in this bright white light and I'm standing there confused, like what's going on? And I see my funeral. I see at the time, September 11th, 1998, my birthday is September 22nd, 72, I was born. So I was 25, about to turn 26 years old. My sister was 15 and my sister was 12 and 15. I see my sisters crying at my funeral. Wow. And it caused a lot of pain. And I was like, whoa, this hurts. Like, holy crap. And then someone came and put their arm around me and all the fear and confusion went away. And I just had instant peace. I knew all was well, all was perfect. And even though it's all bright white light, we turn 180 degrees. Now we're facing these huge doors with bright white light coming out of it. And we start walking towards the doors. Halfway there, I said, stop. This isn't how it's supposed to end. I know you had more for me to accomplish. Send me back. I woke up. I had been helicopter lifted from that scene to University of Rochester Medical Center. And I woke up with a respirator down my throat, breathing for me. And all I remember is it's really painful when you're conscious and there's a respirator breathing for you. Long story short is when I finally got the respirator out from the car accident, I had severe head trauma and I had nerve damage in my leg. I couldn't speak and I couldn't walk. And the doctors and nurses were telling me, look, with the severe head trauma he has, they're telling my family and I, severe head trauma he has and the nerve damage he has in his leg, he may never walk or talk properly again. I couldn't talk. I just shook my head no. Wow. I never once saw myself not walking and talking. I saw myself walking out of there. I saw myself talking. So by the time I was able within a week to start walking with a walker, my leg dragged. It's drop foot, whoever's seen someone with a leg dragging, that's drop foot. My leg dragged and I was walking with a walker. I signed out against doctor's orders from the hospital because they kept telling me I may never walk or talk again. And I just wouldn't conceive that. I never saw that as my reality. And so I checked out against doctor's orders with drop foot, and I've won wrestling tournaments since. I've done amazing things, and it gives me a great excuse if I ever say and do anything stupid. I'm a severe head trauma from the car accident. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah. But so the point of that story is, not every, and those doctors and nurses weren't saying it out of trying to hold me back. Yeah. That's the true reality of it is, but they were just doing their job to not get my expectations up because the reality is they didn't know. Right. So you just have to have that vision of you and stay firm with that. Right. Don't let anyone else's opinion bring you away from what your vision of yourself is.
Yeah. And oftentimes people don't know what you think is possible for you.
Correct.
Right. Like they're just going off of, what they may have seen in the past, what they may personally believe or have experienced, but they don't, like, no one knows what you believe is capable for yourself.
And most of the time they're saying it because they don't want to see you hurt. They don't want to see you in pain. They don't want to see you fail. They don't want to see you suffer. Right. And that's, they're saying it out of love in many cases. Right. But that can help you lower your expectations. So the point of that, and the lesson I want to share with each of you from that is, without having to have a near-death experience, from my near-death experience, it gave me peace knowing that the greatest day is when I transition. I'm doing everything I can to be the caretaker of this amazing $1 trillion vehicle that I'm blessed to have. My mental, my physical, my emotional. I'm here. My goal is to be here as long as possible. But when it's over, that's the greatest day. Like I don't have any fear of death.
Yeah.
I do have the desire to live as long as possible, as healthy as possible, as inspirational as possible, and be me fully and unapologetically. But I also have this belief, and I'm going to pass this through hopefully without having to have your near-death experience. I am immune to death until I'm not. I can't die a second earlier or a second later. Now, the caveat is I'm doing what's mine to do to have the longevity. Like I'm not running into traffic. I'm not pushing the limit of that stuff. I'm doing here, making the proper choices. But in the proper choices, when it's my time, it's my time.
Yeah.
But I'm immune to death until I'm not. And the key is I'm not dead yet. The converse of that is live while we still have this opportunity to live. I was there when my mother passed away at 52 years old, diagnosed and gone of cancer, gone. I was there when my father had his last breath at 56 years old, 2 years later. In 07, my mom passed at 52. 09, my dad passed at 56.
Wow.
Diagnosed and gone. And I witnessed that. And I had my own near-death experience. And I recognized it. And just in our neighborhood, 3 days ago, the SWAT team was here. A dude took his own life in our neighborhood.
Oh, wow.
Right?
Sorry to hear that. Wow.
Yeah. Right. So like life, it has lots of twists and turns, but I'm of the belief, and I could have you consider possibly contemplating you could have the same thing. I'm going to live my life fully and unapologetically while I can. And I'm of the belief that I can't die a second earlier or later than when it's my time. So I'm immune to death until I'm not. I'm going to make the proper choices. I'm going to be me fully and unapologetic. In the meantime, have fun. I'm here as a joyous creator. If you want your 2-word purpose for being here as a human on this earth, joyous creation. You're here to be a joyous creator and be that joyous creator fully and unapologetically. And each of us create in a different way. Find out what gives you that joy. You know, there's 3 phases of life. We have survival, consistency, and exploration, right? Goals to get out of the survival to the consistency where you have enough to pay the bills and live the life that you want. But then that exploration, that's when the joyous creation comes into play. When you can explore what brings you joy, go do that. Go be that. This journey is brief, regardless of how long we live. So be that joyous creator and squeeze every ounce of it. So one of the other stories I tell, welcome to the greatest amusement park in the universe, life on earth as a human. This, in my perspective, is a brief trip to the greatest amusement park in the universe. Yeah. With this amazing vehicle, our minds, our bodies, right? This $1 trillion body that Steve Jobs would rent for $60+ billion for your vehicle for half a day. You're at this most amazing amusement park in the universe. Guess what you're not doing when you and your family go to the amusement park? You're not sitting around checking your phone. You're going, what's next? What's next? What's next? You ride the ride and you're like, okay, cool. We're going to ride it again. Or we're going to go to another ride. Okay, another ride. Great. What ride? And then you walk with a purpose to the next ride. Yeah. And guess what? You've all experienced this. I've experienced it. No matter if you're there for a day, 2 days, 3 days, or a week, it's over like that.
It is.
So is this life, ladies and gentlemen. So the key is maximize it. So when me and my family, when we go to the music park, we have a plan beforehand. We're going to have the most fun. We're going to be the joyous creators here. We're going to go for it with all we've got to have the most fun. So at the end of the day, we fist bump. We say, no one had more fun than us here today. How can you have that same perspective with your life? Welcome to the greatest amusement park in the universe, life on earth as a human. No one had more fun than you on this journey. Go be that joyous creator and have fun. So a lot of times it's easy to get sucked into difficulties and challenges and problems and the world stuff and not enjoy the greatest amusement park in the universe. Go where, guess what? One of the goals, not the amusement park, you don't ride every ride. You explore and you know which rides are going to give you that excitement. And you have to have the boldness to be you fully and unapologetically. The old me back as a teenager, I want to go to this ride. Oh, I don't want to go that. No one want to go that ride. Oh, okay, great. I guess I'll go to these other rides I don't want to go to. Now I'm like, hey, great. You guys go do that. I'm going to go do this. Yeah. We'll catch up later. Right. You live your life fully and unapologetically. And you don't have to have full agreement with everybody. Like, this is what brings me joy. I'm going to go do it. And it's okay if others don't want to join you. Go have fun. Go be you fully and unapologetically. So hopefully that additional insights here. Those are some of the other keys I want to share that hopefully connect some dots and help each and every one of you squeeze every ounce of joy from this brief journey to the greatest amusement park in the universe, life on earth as a human.
What
Yeah,
an amazing
that was
example. I'm so glad we hung around for you to share
Absolutely.
that huge golden bunch of joy, you know?
So
Wow.
if they want more of that, you can go to youarenotdeadyet.com. I have an iOS and Android app with a lot more of these trainings that go a little bit deeper into each of these topics. The book it was done about a year ago. I have yet to release it, but the cool part, it's all unfolding perfectly because it's changed since then to now become even more clear. Like doing all these talks and presentations, it's become more clear, more crystallized in my mind. It's going to be simple. Instead of the big long stories, it's going to be lesson. So lots of good stuff.
Wow.
There you go. Look, Cynthia said she's already went to the site and downloaded the app. And yeah, so, Tom, my biggest takeaway from this, and I want you guys, because we're streaming to Facebook, I want you guys right now to go in and post what has been your biggest takeaway. And Tom, I think you're part of a Kindle Cashflow Mastermind Facebook group. So please go in and tag Tom in the group as well. All right. So make sure that you go in. Let's show him how much we appreciate everything that he's given us today. I've got notes all over the place. Like I've got a notebook full of notes here, Tom. One of my biggest takeaways is the fact that your quote, no one had more fun, like making this your mission. No one had more fun than me on this journey in life.
Right. Yeah. And with your kids, or your family or friends, no one had more fun here today than we did. I love that. It just reframes everything, doesn't it?
Yeah, definitely does.
Really does.
Great.
Make today great.
Repeat daily.
Yep, there you go. And the exploration, right? Like, I want to kind of revisit something that you said really quickly before we close out, like exploring. So you gave us the three things. You gave us survival, consistency, and exploration. Mm-hmm. So if you think about it as children, and even into our teen, and even into our 20s, we're totally open to exploring, right? Even into our 30s sometimes, depending on who we are. But then there's a point where we stop. Like we say, okay, this is who I am, so I only do these things, right? I don't explore with different, whatever it may be, different amusement parks, different sports teams, different beliefs, different, exploring even different religions. Like one of the things I do, I don't subscribe to any one religion, right? So that's a whole nother subject there. So I'm appreciate and love and like explore all of the different religions that are out there and personality types and individuals. There was a point in my life where there were certain people that I thought I couldn't have a relationship with, right? Because they didn't understand me or they didn't come from my part of town. That's how closed off I was. If you didn't come from my part of town, the east side, the east end of Bridgeport, then we didn't have anything in common. Like, think about like how much you lose out on that, like exploring and travel, exploring and just different even podcasts or YouTube channels.
Yeah. Well, Ty, you're hitting on it. We're at the greatest amusement park in the universe. And a lot of us think we get to that point where we think we know the amusement park, where guess what? There's a whole bunch of rabbit holes. There's a whole bunch of Easter eggs that we're unaware of in this amazing amusement park, the most amazing one in the universe. And there's a whole different sectors that you think you know it all, but you holy crap, I didn't know this was there. It's like turning the corner after you're already full on a buffet and like, I didn't know my favorite food was here. Like that's where exploration pays off. So just have a blast and treat this like the game that it is.
There we go.
Yeah. And when when I feel fear on different times, and then when the fear, the ego comes in, I'm just going to remember your story, your near-death story, because I experienced something similar on a way smaller scale for the whole out-of-body thing. And it was incredible. And I think we forget all of those things that we've been through. So when you feel fear or you feel you've got some limiting belief, just go back. I mean, there's nothing more powerful than to just about die, but make a decision 25 years ago that's not going to happen. I mean, it just makes everything else so tiny in terms of perspective, doesn't it? And I'm going to always remember that story that you've shared.
And tie in, not out of fear, out of like knowing that the amusement park, you're getting pushed out of the amusement park. Like when you're there with your family at any amusement park, like today's our last day. We got like add some urgency, knowing that your final destination, you're going to be asked to leave this amusement park, right? And the rub of that is we don't know. Like when we go to the amusement park, we know when our tickets expire. Here, we don't know which day. Like that's the rub that we have in this journey of life, and we misconceive that we're owed today. We're owed, I'm going to finish this day. None of us have any guarantee of finishing today. None of us have a guarantee of tomorrow. Go with urgency, like add urgency to your life. And this is from, and I speak this to myself too, because now it's adding urgency to get this finally out. It's been done for a year. It's been refined. Now it's like, okay, now it's time to add urgency to this because this stuff works and I want to help people. I'm doing a disservice to people by delaying. Add urgency because I've had friends that were ready to put a book out. They're gone. They died. They didn't plan on dying. They freaking died before they got their book out.
It's your duty to get that out. Yeah.
Tom, we've lost a couple of our IM friends over the last couple of years that, I mean, we're just like, Greg Caesar and I were talking about this the other day. We were thinking about all of the people that have passed over the last couple of years. And it's just been, like, you just never know, men and women, right? So it's, hey, brother, this has been good, man. This has been beautiful.
Thank you, Olivia, for putting the link in there. I've just copied it again. So there's the link to the app.
Yep. And Tom, we are definitely, listen, guys. So Melida, myself are back on the Marketers Cruise this year. We typically pay up front each year, and I think we actually paid for an extra. So if anyone is interested in joining us on the Marketers Cruise, it's still January, right? So January, right, Tom?
Yeah.
Yep. Reach out to me.
January next year.
Yep. And let me know. So Cynthia says it's January 6th and 14th. So
that's right. It's January 6th. Yeah, you're right. This year was the end of January. This next is January 6th, correct?
Yeah, and Cynthia actually met you on the Marketers Cruise this past January. So normally when we go, we celebrate my birthday.
Yep.
So we are, my birthday is on during the Marketers Cruise. This time it looks like it won't be, but you guys reach out to me if you want more information on the Marketers Cruise, and I'll put you in contact with Captain Lou. And we'll just go from there, and we will definitely get Tom back on 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 more times. At least. And brother, let me know. Where can they follow you?
TomBeal.com. I got all my social media stuff on at TomBeal.com. And plus there's that's actually a fun little test. Like that's actually using one of the cards, the little cards that you tap, dot cards. And so I just have TomBeal.com going to dot card page, which has all my social media stuff. And that's kind of the
dot cards are amazing. I got mine on my phone. Yeah.
So I just TomBeal.com brings you to my dot card that has all my social media stuff and all the stuff that I have huge amounts of free value out there that continues these conversations. Love to get your feedback. I love Ty. You asked, nothing makes Ty happier than people saying, Ty, this is what I loved about, what you shared. Like same for me. I love hearing what resonated for you because it's different for everybody. So I'd love to hear what was your biggest takeaway. And don't forget, have that conversation with yourself 20 years ago and have that conversation with that best version of you 20 years from now. Come back and maybe that version is going to be tough on you, but maybe it's a similar conversation that has some empathy on you. Like, hey, look, you're going through some hardships. You're going through some challenges. My belief is we're either just coming out of some serious challenges, personally or professionally. We're in some serious challenges right now, or there's some right around the corner.
Yeah.
I mean, expect chaos, expect challenges. Life is the ultimate level up game. Life is going to have you continually level up. You get tired of playing Mario Kart level 1. When you master it, you go to level 2. Oh crap, it's tough. Then you master that. You go to level 3. Life continually has you level up, whether you want to or not. So don't slack on that.
All right, guys. So that brings us to the end of today's show. As always, we love to hear from you. So wherever you're watching, be sure to take a moment and share what your biggest takeaway was. Go in the Facebook group, go on YouTube, comment on Instagram, wherever you're watching this, make sure that you comment and let us know what your biggest takeaway. It could be just that one thing that's going to solidify the conversation that we had today between myself, Tom, Caroline, and last but not least, make sure that you join us for the Get It Done Challenge that's coming up just this Monday, actually. So go to tycohen.com/MOC. So tycohen.com/MOC. You can go in and grab a free ticket. And then make sure that you join us every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And if you know someone who's supposed to be part of the MMM and they have not joined us, make sure that you remind them that, hey, we are brother and sisters keepers. Join us for the MMM every Monday, every Wednesday, and every Friday. Tom, give my best to Wanda. Tell her we're looking forward to hanging out with you guys again. Caroline, anything in closing that you want to share?
I would just say this has been incredible. I know everyone's feeling the same. I mean, I hope you've all been making loads of notes, and it's really interesting because the different things will resonate with different people.
Yeah.
When Tom was talking about the Hawaiian practice, I think somebody put it in the chat, the name of it, so it's Ho'oponopono, Ho'oponopono, and it's a great, I love you, I'm sorry. No, it's I'm sorry, please forgive me, I love you, thank you. I can't remember the way around. But it's very powerful way. And one of the things I just wanted to add to that is it's very powerful if you can look at a photograph of you as a child and say it to the photo, and it just sort of takes away all of that angst we often have about if we've said or done things stupid, in Tom's words, in the past, or if other people have done that to us. And I think when you can release that, you're right there to head to those next 20 years plus, in terms of thank you, Jane, I'm sorry, forgive me, thank you, I love you. I think there's people can do it whatever way around resonates, but that's the practice, and it really is very powerful. And as has today been, it's just been incredible. And we thank you so much for coming and sharing yourself.
All the Monday morning meetup people being here. It's been my pleasure. Thanks for having me. I look forward to coming back again. And I look forward to hearing all of your biggest takeaways.
All right. With that said, have a great morning, great day, great night, everyone. We'll see you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
Post your biggest takeaways so Tom can go in the Facebook group and read them. Tag him, Tom, T-O-M, Bill, B-E-A-L. We'll see you guys. We'll see you on Monday.
See you Monday.
All right. Oh, big homework. We didn't give you homework for Monday. Your homework for Monday is what has been your takeaway from this, and what's the thing that you're going to start implementing like ASAP? I think that you always get the best when you say, okay, this is the thing that I got, whether it's from a course, a seminar, a training, a webinar, a guest like this, and you like immediately put it into place. So you immediately put it into place. So what's that one thing? So there we go. Thanks, Jane. I see the thumbs up there. All right, Darlene, we'll see you. Cynthia, we'll see you.
Share that Monday.
Have a great one. All right.
Have a great weekend.
Have a great weekend, Caroline. I'll talk to you.
Thank you. Take care.
Enjoy the movie. That sounds
Thank
great.
you.
So go see it.